The Page of Wands arrives like the first spark in dry wood, sudden, bright, and full of promise, yet not yet a flame that knows how to sustain itself. It is the raw moment of inspiration before discipline arrives, the thrill of an idea before reality tests it, the restless call of something new that refuses to be ignored, and in the quiet language of Tarot, this page does not walk. He leans forward, as if already hastening toward a horizon he cannot yet see but somehow trusts. In traditional imagery, the figure stands in a desert like landscape, holding a tall wand upright, gazing at it with curiosity and fascination, as though this simple staff contains an entire future waiting to be explored. And this visual is precise in its symbolism because the Page of Wands is not grounded like pentacles, not emotional like cups, not analytical like swords. He is fire in its earliest form, curiosity, excitement, desire to explore, to begin, to experiment, to step into something unfamiliar, simply because it feels alive. Psychologically, this card represents the awakening of passion, the birth of creative energy, the urge to break routine and try something new, whether it is a new project, a new relationship, a new identity, or even a new way of thinking. It is often seen in people who are at the beginning of a journey, who feel a strong pull toward expression, adventure, or self discovery, yet have not yet developed the structure or endurance to carry it forward consistently. And this is important too. Understand because the Page of Wands is not about mastery, it is about ignition. In real life situations, this can appear as someone who suddenly decides to start a business, learn a new art form, travel, change careers, or express themselves in ways they never have before, fueled by excitement rather than a detailed plan, like a writer who begins a novel at midnight with unstoppable enthusiasm but has not yet considered how to finish it, or a person who falls in love with an idea of a relationship rather than the reality of it. There is beauty in this energy, a kind of innocence that allows movement without overthinking, but also a vulnerability because fire without direction can burn out just as quickly as it ignites. In relationships, the Page of Wands often represents flirtation, attraction, playful curiosity, messages filled with excitement but lacking depth, the early stage where everything feels possible and nothing is yet defined, and while this can be exhilarating, it can also lead to inconsistency, where interest fades as quickly as it appeared if not nurtured into something more stable. In career or creative pursuits, this card can indicate fresh ideas, entrepreneurial spirit, innovation, or the courage to step into uncharted territory. But it also warns that enthusiasm alone is not enough. Without discipline, patience, and structure, even the brightest idea can dissolve into unfinished beginnings. Now, when we turn toward the shadow side, the Page of Wands reveals a more restless, scattered, and impulsive face, where excitement becomes distraction, curiosity becomes lack of commitment, and the desire for newness overrides the responsibility of completion. This can manifest as jumping from one idea to another without finishing anything, chasing excitement rather than substance, making promises that are never fulfilled, or acting on impulse without considering consequences, like someone who constantly seeks the next big thing but never builds anything solid, or someone who starts projects, relationships, or paths with great passion but abandons them as soon as the initial thrill fades. There can also be a tendency toward impatience, frustration with routine, and resistance to discipline because the Page of Wands wants movement, not structure, and when faced with the slow, steady work required for growth, he may feel trapped or lose interest entirely. Another shadow aspect is immaturity in handling passion, mistaking excitement for purpose, desire for direction, or attention for validation, which can lead to confusion, inconsistency, or even reckless decisions, especially when the fire energy is not grounded by wisdom or experience. Yet, Even in its shadow, the page of Vance carries an essential truth. Every great journey begins with a spark, and without this initial fire, nothing would ever start. The key is not to suppress this energy but to guide it, to allow curiosity to evolve into commitment, to let inspiration mature into creation, to understand that beginnings are sacred but incomplete without continuation. The page of Vans asks a question that is deceptively simple yet deeply revealing. What excites you enough to begin? And are you willing to stay when the excitement fades and the real work begins? Because the difference between a fleeting spark and a lasting flame is not the intensity of the fire, but the patience to keep it alive.